10 people in here.
Really?
Yeah, there's maybe not 10.
What was the hot topic?
Stop signs,
Another
speeding,
stuff.
Speeders. You gotta put stop signs.
speeders. That nice guy about the water. I don't know what he was talking about though. He kept saying Dr. Einstein.
Oh, that's,
Yeah, you introduced me to him.
yeah,
He worked at Santa Rosa, right?
Screechfield,
Did he work-
Ken Screechfield, water department, Santa Rosa for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Knows all about the river. Well, it's 1:30, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting. Today is October the 7th, 2024. And we're here to discuss administration and finance as well as police administration. So with that being said, let's just go around the room. I'm Gus Walter, City Council member.
Kevin Thompson, Assistant City Manager.
Chris Parker, Chief Police.
Bob Jordanetti.
Well,
Teresa Mahoney.
Logan Harvey.
okay,
We have
Frankston.
Daniel Frankston and then David Kelly is also joining us.
okay. Daniel's online.
Daniel's here in the corner.
Oh, I didn't see you. Why don't you sit here, so I need my gavel behind you. Come on.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Walter and Finance and Subcommittee attendees. I'm attending via Zoom because I'm a little under the weather, but there's a lot of important items on the agenda and I didn't want to miss it.
Well, it sounds like you would have fitted in good right here. I'm under the weather as are the people in the audience tonight, but this afternoon. So with that being said, I'm going to open it to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the subcommittee on items that do not appear on today's agenda may do so. Just please limit your time to 3 minutes and we'll go from there. Anyone have anything to say about things not on the agenda?
I guess my comment would be under traffic enforcement and citations,
Okay,
because it concerns traffic.
yeah,
So we'll wait till that.
we'll wait. Yes, that'd be good. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment section. And at this point in time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Kevin Thompson, our Assistant City Manager and Community Development Director, to continue the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Gus. Communications, we have not received any. I think there might be.
Was there another copy?
Give it, Aaron.
That's correct. We do not have any communications.
Hang on, wait, someone else just came in. So approval of minutes, we'll have the minutes at the next subcommittee meeting. They're not ready for approval today. New business. Discussion item 1 under new business is a vacancy property ordinance, and I can take this one.
Right.
So on September 11th, we presented this idea to the city council about creating a vacancy ordinance. So this would be a new ordinance in our code that would keep tabs on downtown. Well, that's one of the questions, but it would keep tabs on commercial vacancies within the city. Really what it amounts to is it's called a registry. So whoever owns a vacant property would have to register with the city. They would have to provide us contact information. So there's a few nuances to these ordinances. They're not real punitive. It's more difficult to be punitive. But there would be a fee associated with that. The fee would just cover the cost of us running the ordinance. So we have to do some consideration on how much time it takes us to do that, and that's what we can charge. At the council meeting, I had a couple questions that we were going to present to this committee to try to get some direction on. One of the options is, do we want to require an inspection every year? And I think that would be prudent. We can have the fire and building department conduct an inspection each year. The price of that would be included in the fee. One of the other questions was, do we want this to be citywide? Well, I think some of the discussion at the council was to make it concentrated on the downtown area. It's kind of where we have more of our chronic vacancies. And so that would be another question. An easy way to do it might be to just consider that what we call the downtown zoning district. So that's an area, a few blocks here on either side. That would encapsulate most of the vacancies. One of the interesting things, I don't know that it needs to be put in the ordinance, but we could allow temporary uses. And I've seen this like in other cities where, just say around Christmas time, somebody just wants to come in for 2 months and do like a pop-up retail. That way we can get some life into the buildings and just kind of, people can go into the buildings, maybe they'd be interested in renting them. So that's something that is also, I think, a good idea to include in the ordinance. Also, there has to be a community engagement component to this, so we need to identify the vacant properties. I contact those owners, maybe through the chamber, we could use them as help with that. And just make them aware of what we're trying to do here. I think the goal ultimately is really, again, it's not real punitive, but it's really just to say to these owners, look, we see that it's vacant, it's been vacant a long time. We want you to keep it up. We're gonna do inspections, is there anything that we can do to help you rent it? Just so we can get some life into some of these buildings. There are a number of ordinances out there that we've kind of modeled after, and so really, I would just look for direction from this group. This subcommittee is, you want to just include downtown zoning? I think the inspection part is pretty much understood that we would want to do an inspection every year. That was one of the variables that could be built in. The temporary uses, I don't know that we need to really, do much in that regard, but just allow them and encourage them and make that an option. Make it really easy for someone to get in there, not a lot of paperwork. Someone just wanted to occupy for 2 months, and then the community engagement. So, I'm ready to get an ordinance, together and bring it back to the city council. Those are just kind of the few of the variables that I was looking for direction on, so maybe we could just have a discussion about those and then I can draft an ordinance with, city attorney help and bring it to the council.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm gonna open it up for public comment. I feel a little awkward being the only one here, to address this item like this. And I'll give you just a couple things to think about between now and the next meeting, Kevin, but anyone want to speak to this matter about vacant buildings in the city of Cloverdale? Paul, is your hand up?
Yes, so that
Yeah,
ordinance
please.
includes stuff like the old bank over there, the weeds growing up next to it.
Yeah.
Would that include
It would.
the city would clean the weeds out, and send them a bill, or how would that work?
Well, we only do that after a long process. First, we encourage them to do it.
Yeah, but at least tell them you gotta, it looks like.
Yeah, for us to go on there, we have to have a court order and there has to be letters sent, and then we lien the property. It's a big
Oh,
deal.
but at least notify them, like this,
Yeah.
the weeds growing on the side, right in front.
Well, I think when they register, they're gonna have to make a conscious effort to register their vacant building. At that point, maybe that's when we hand them standards where we say, you gotta keep it clean, the weeds, and by the way, we're gonna do an inspection too. So, after that inspection, they could very well get a list of items that they need to address. The goal is really just to get these buildings rented. And it's not to be punitive, but it's also because,
Well, kept up too, there's,
yeah,
you know,
you
look
gotta
like
keep,
hell.
keep them up, and I think we're just getting tired of seeing these chronic vacancies that owners don't seem to wanna to rent to anybody.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just have, 3 comments. I personally, I would vote if it's gonna be for commercial property, I think it should be, citywide. The bottom line is, we have a problem with a, car wash that would not be affected. It seems to me if we're gonna do it for commercial, and I would certainly be supportive of it citywide.
Okay.
The second issue is with regards to pop-ups. I mean, I think it's great to encourage temporary uses. I don't know if the contemplation is that we would start the process anew. My only concern is somebody like Ed might go and say, oh, we're gonna have somebody in today, and that'll basically just put me out, and you have to start over again. So I think there needs to be some thought given to the extent to which a pop-up either starts the process and then moves it backwards. And the third is, I guess my question would be, what about potential dual use properties? It's my belief that like the community gardens, that's zoned for commercial, but I think it also has a residential component. And I think some thought would need to be given as to whether, if it has a dual use, zoning, then whether to include that or not, because, I think those are 3 things that can be helpful for the council to consider.
Okay, well, thank you for those comments.
And lastly, I would definitely encourage the annual inspections. I mean, that's part of the whole process, obviously, so.
Anyone else?
Isn't the car wash already under some kind of a lawsuit thing or
Yeah,
something, whatever?
we did that long process, we ended up cleaning it, and now there's a lien on the property.
Okay, well then, my comments, and then we'll move on to the next, topic is, I'm gonna kick this can down the road. Mayor Lance, couldn't be with us today. And I hate, being one council member giving direction to staff. So Kevin, I'm just gonna ask you to, bring it back. I think you've made good headway. I agree, with Paul, just to address your situations, we have in the past been very successful with Ken Wilson. And if somebody would give him a call and the next day everything would be taken care of. So I just want to follow up and make sure that he knows he's got weeds growing up there. So why don't we just move it down the road? You heard some comments from the public and
You want me to bring it back to the subcommittee or?
I think the subcommittee, I don't see that there's an urgent rush on this. And my goal too is not to be heavy-handed with this, to work hand in hand with the building owners to rent those buildings. It serves no one any good to promote ill will by coming out with a bunch of fines and liens on properties. You know, they have their struggles, I'm sure, and maybe we can work together to get it done. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Moving on to E2, downtown, property acquisition at 205 South Cloverdale. I think David's been working on this one, so.
Yeah, thanks.
Just a short one, Dave.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. Just a real quick overview. This item was referred by the council to the Finance Admin and Police Subcommittee at the request of Councilmember Morgenstern. This is pertains to the property with the address 205 South Cloverdale Boulevard. Currently it's a vacant property that in the past has been utilized as a community garden site. It's it has frontage on the boulevard. The size of the property is about 0.91 acres. It's zoned downtown commercial. It's most recent, based on most recent land value in terms of the property transaction. It sold for $655,000 in 2022. Just based on kind of land valuation rates, we would give it an approximate value of $670,000. But that's not an appraised value. That's just an estimate based on the previous sale value. Any acquisition by the city would require a formal appraisal. It does have a tax history for the last 5 years. The property owners have contributed most recently about $2,900 in tax revenue. That's apportioned to the taxing entities. So Cloverdale receives about between 17 and 23% of the total of the $2,900 that's being paid. So if the property was to convert to public property, we would no longer collect taxes, so it'd be a loss of tax revenue. One of the requests of staff was just to do kind of a basic analysis of the proposed acquisition. Right now, we are experiencing some, budget constraints. There's not a really an available source of funding to acquire the property. It would likely require either our capital reserves or development impact fees or a combination thereof, most of which are spoken for in terms of existing capital improvement projects. So we'd have to kind of look at reorganizing those projects, scaling them back in order to fund the acquisition just from a financial perspective. The property, as I mentioned, is zoned downtown commercial. This is something we want to foster and support in our downtown, because it promotes commercial activity and ultimately a vibrant downtown area. If it was to go to public use, we would probably want to look at changing the zoning to correspond with what that use would be. Maybe public facilities might be inappropriate. So right now, again, it's zoned and envisioned for commercial uses in our downtown. We do think it supports future private development. It could support future retail, maybe even a hotel site, or be developed along with other adjacent properties, which would promote our economic development in the city. Though again, an alternative use could be supportive of our economic goals of bringing additional people downtown. So in general, I think the property is attractive for private investors. Of course, it is on the market, so we'll have to see what the market says in terms of someone considering it and buying it. So that there are some, again, just in summary, some constraints to purchasing it. That would include our financial constraints, the potential loss of tax revenue, and how it could contribute to a future downtown. With again, if council or the subcommittee wanted to recommend the purchase, staff would have to kind of look more closely at our financial reserves, as well as our impact fee accounts, and kind of come up with how we might fund this, which would ultimately start with an appraisal to determine the value, which we would want to go to council and closed session to discuss real property negotiations. And at this time, we don't have funding to do an appraisal. So just kind of an overview. We're happy to do additional analysis. This was really just kind of the basic data regarding this particular piece of property. And there's certainly, a feasibility analysis that could be done, depending on what, if there was a specific use identified for the property under the city's ownership.
Thank you, David. Once again, I'm going to open it up to the public first to see if anyone has any comments on this item. Yes,
Why
Paul.
would the city even want to buy it?
Well, a council member is
Recommended buying it?
is making a recommendation that the city consider buying that and making a park area out of that. So that's what we're here, the preliminary discussions to see if we want to do that. Well, at this point in time, I'm going to put this on the back burner and ask that you bring it back when we have more than one council member. I was kind of hoping we could resolve it today. I'm of the opinion that it's a great idea. Unfortunately, right now, we do not have the financial wherewithal to do that. Quimby Act funds, I think we're about maybe 400,000 in that roughly. It would exhaust all of that, plus we need some additional capital, and that's quite honestly, that's prime downtown real estate, and I'm hoping it sells to somebody who actually wants to develop it. So with that being said, why don't we move that to the next agenda?
Next item, okay,
Thank you.
all right. Next item is E3, traffic enforcement and citations. Chief, got that one?
Sure, so, I'll preface it by saying that this is my first day back from medical leave. So, I received an email from, the city manager while I'm on medical leave requesting traffic enforcement citations. I understand, there was concern about some stop signs from the Public Works Subcommittee. I don't know anything more than that, locations or anything, or the kind of the overall, so I provided the stats for the last couple of years. As requested.
Well, Chief, if I could just give you a little background. David, what are you going to do?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just I'm probably going to cover what you were going to say. Is yes, there were some requests or a request received by the Public Works and Facilities Subcommittee for an additional stop sign, which discussion ensued by the Public Works Subcommittee about traffic enforcement, and it was Vice Chair who requested that data on traffic citations issued by the police department be brought forward at the at this subcommittee, and included in your packet is some analysis that or data that our chief provided that's collected by our police department for the last 3 calendar years, 22, 23, and 2024. And it shows a pretty consistent trend. Total citations in 2022 was 940. In 2023, 780 and 507. Those are kind of characterized in about 7 or 8 different categories. Those include unregistered vehicles, exceeding the maximum speed limit, vehicles without registration, driving without a license, stop sign violations, proof of financial responsibility, and then bench warrants, along with various parking violations and misdemeanors. So that the numbers, I think, is what you were asking for, Vice Chair. And this is what we put in the packet is a summary of the major category, the total number of citations in the major categories, and the number for each of those categories.
Yes, thank you, David. And I guess my concern and the reason I requested this information from the Public Works Subcommittee was basically the fact that, Chris, it just seems like every time I turn around, somebody's complaining about speeders. And that's throughout the town. I've seen it on a number of times, trying to cross the street in a crosswalk, and it's rather challenging sometimes. But just the tires squealing and the loud mufflers, and I know a lot of that's not law breaking. You can have a loud muffler up to a certain decimal, and the same with tires screeching. But I'm just wondering how we can step up the enforcement a little bit of the speeders and the California stops that folks are doing in the stop sign, in stop zones where they just have to break and roll through. So I'm not sure if that new radar trailer that we have can issue tickets or give you a snapshot of a vehicle or how it does it, but what are your suggestions?
So our radar trailer, what I understand, does have the capability to that. We didn't purchase that portion of it. I think there's an upgrade to it. I can give you some stats on the radar trailer. I had some stats pulled for speeders, the last 4 that we did. And started with Healdsburg Avenue. So the radar trailer was out there 25 days. The speed limit there is 25 miles per hour. Average speed was 16.8 miles an hour. 85 percentile was 22 miles an hour for 45,695 vehicles. Healdsburg at Franklin Street was out there for 25 days, 25 miles per hour speed limit. Average speed was 16.96 miles per hour. 85 percentile was 22.22 miles per hour. Total volume was 39,411 vehicles. Cloverdale Boulevard at School Street, that was out there 8 days for 25 mile an hour. 24.15 miles per hour was the average speed. The 85 percentile was 29.7, 29.3, and a total of 27,000 vehicles. Jefferson at 2nd Street was out there 15 days. That's a 25 mile an hour zone. Average speed was 18.12 miles per hour. At 85 percentile speed was 25, and the total volume was 30,000. The last one was that we pulled was North Jefferson, was 15 out there 15 day, 25 miles per hour zone. Average speed was 14 miles an hour. 85 percentile was 22, and total volume was 21,000. So the trend is, I mean, the people are saying within the speed limit. I know they're speeding, but it's we only have a couple of places in town that we can do radar enforcement because of the speed surveys. So we tend not to use the radar because we're just limited on the use. So everything is, we do a lot of equipment violations. We see a lot of registration tickets, tail lights to illegal U-turns and just things like that. Usually when someone says they're speeding, I always ask, okay, where, what time of day it is, so that way we can go out and do direct enforcement. We can start by putting the radar trailer out there, see kind of, okay, who's speeding. And I know I do get a lot of complaints. Oh, you hear that?
Yeah.
Well, a loud muffler is not someone speeding. This is a relevant muffler. It's illegal to have a loud muffler, the modified exhaust, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're speeding. So, but there is speeding. If we can get a specific location, I always ask for specific, because that way we can go out and target those areas, versus just kind of trying to figure out what their complaint is and trying to address their concerns.
Well, I thought that's what the radar trailer was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Was say, okay, between this time and this time, we have 5 speeders. you know, based on the data, and then we send a live person out there during that time period to see what's going on. But I mean, I know we have speeders, you know.
Yeah,
So, you know, how do we get our arms around it? Because apparently the community, thinks there should be another way for us to crack down on this, so. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
Well, can I open it up to the public? real quick? So anybody else, Paul, you said you were here for that, item.
Go ahead and let the lady speak.
I just wanted to, say that I live in
Hold on one
Delaware,
moment. Can you state your name for the record, please?
and my property, backs South Cloverdale Boulevard.
What's your name, ma'am? So you can-
Teresa Mahoney. And I live in Delaware, my property, my backyard backs South Cloverdale Boulevard, and they are definitely speeders. And there's also, exhaust pipe issues. So I don't know, I don't think I've seen anything down that far, you know, coming off the highway. Going past the gas station there, Treadway and where Fairburn Plaza is. I mean, it's,
You talking about the trailer?
yeah, I don't know how much of a deterrent a trailer is, though, but, you know, I don't know how you can deter these people, but there are definitely, and it's hard to get, and I know you don't have the manpower also, it's hard to get cruise patrols down that end of South Cloverdale Boulevard.
No, are you talking, your house backs up South Cloverdale Boulevard or Foothill?
South Cloverdale Boulevard.
Okay, so it's a very small stretch of homes there.
It's not, it might be a mile. You know, but they definitely zoom past there, and I don't know if they're coming off the highway that way. Or,
Okay, I'll look at putting the radar trail, see if we can figure out when it's occurring and what the speeds are.
that'd be appreciated, thank you.
I think it's a Shady Lane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from the red light to Shady Lane is probably what you're talking.
Well, even up to Joe Webb. From like Shady Lane up to the stoplight.
Yeah.
And they could be coming off the highway, you know, you do an 80 and you're coming off the highway and it's hard to slow down, I guess, I don't know.
Oh, no, they got that,
They just don't
that,
pay.
that weird traffic light thing.
Okay, anything else on this, Paul?
Well, there are two things. I live on Champlain Street, Champlain Avenue officially. And every night, there's a couple of those guys that go by with them, not just a loud mouth, they're going way over the speed limit. It's like 9 to 11 o'clock at night. So. Would it help if a guy turned in a license plate?
Yeah, we can go deal with that. We can always go contact them. We can't sign them for it, but.
Yeah.
We can always find out who it is and go contact them.
My main concern is you're trying to pass a tax ordinance to basically fix the streets, right? We have a city ordinance allowing, I think it's trucks, vehicles not over 9,000 pounds in city streets.
Mhm.
I'm continuously calling the police department about big rigs parked all over town. It's like nobody seems to care. I've seen them on Foothill Boulevard, I see the truck and trailer parked on Hillview. Just all over the place. There's a guy who was parked at, between the turnoff for Chablis, across the street from there with some kind of a crane truck. That was way overloaded, way overweight. He had no California numbers, he had no weight numbers. In California, I had a commercial driver's license for over 40 years. And when you have a heavy duty truck, you're supposed to have all the California numbers on it. That truck should have been cited for not even having the numbers on it. And heavy trucks ruin streets and everybody knows that.
Mhm.
You know, if you got a cement delivery, well, you gotta go on the street.
Yeah. Did an officer go out there for that?
What's that?
Did an officer go out there for that?
Yeah, I've had to call. I guess the officer,
The one you just talked about, did an officer go to that location?
I don't know if an officer went to that location.
Did you call?
I don't, that one I haven't called on because I've called on other ones. And another thing about the streets, that truck parked there, I've seen it. My cousin's wife owns that house right there. It's on the corner of Roan Court. And leaking oil ruins asphalt. And you can see where that truck's been leaking oil. Oil with petroleum, it just eats up asphalt. That's another reason. If I ever see that truck again, I will. I'll call you folks up because, you know, if you guys see a truck and it doesn't have proper numbers, you cite it and check it out and all that.
If the officer is trained in doing commercial,
Sometimes they don't.
yeah, it's a specialty, training that they need to go through. The other commercial vehicles, these are
They're
CHP.
supposed to have their 30 number, their 54 or their 80 number, and they're supposed to have their CA number on there too. And there's an ordinance in the California vehicle code, they're supposed to have a name on the door, certain size letters that can be seen from certain. That truck there just got nothing on it. Next time I see you, I don't know.
Yeah, it was called.
Somebody said he lives in trailer park there now, you know. But the main thing is any commercial vehicle. Are your officers stopping when they see one on the street? I've seen the rescue truck and trailer park by the gas station, you know, top of the hill gas station by the hardware. Numerous times, truck and trailer, that's illegal. An empty truck and trailer weighs over 30,000 pounds. And of course, the full one weighs 80,000.
We've been out to the ones that park at Times Square property.
Oh,
There's
have
a
you?
guy that parks there all the time. Take them out.
Yeah.
Usually a little park down by Renner in their lot.
Yeah, Renner has a thing, I think, I don't know if they charge them, but
Yeah.
it ruins the streets and everybody knows it ruins the streets.
No, you're right, Paul.
We're trying to pass an ordinance to get money to fix streets, but you can't have big rigs parked on the street.
And I think we have a limited weight that you're allowed on Cloverdale Boulevard too.
Oh, on the main drag
On the
too?
main drag. Well,
Anyway,
we all know we have a problem. The question is, how do we solve it? And,
that speeding thing is almost, unless you have 100 cops in town, you just.
yeah. And, it never happens when there's one sitting around there, so,
If you see a police car, you know you're gonna slow down.
yeah. Well, we have them unmarked too. We have them so you can't tell they're police
If you
cars.
want, you can back in my driveway on Champlain at night.
Watch them go by.
Hell yeah, you can catch them. I mean, it's not like 40 miles an hour, it's like 50, 60 miles. They're just, you can hear them.
It's a narrow road.
There's little
too.
kids on that street and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff, you know. So,
Well,
anyway.
Chief, I think what I'd like to see is just, if we could on a monthly basis, just kind of an update of, tickets issued and stops made, or if we can just kind of monitor that for a little while and let's see what happens.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you.
Next item, Russ? Next item?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so next item is E4 Solid Waste Franchise Agreement. And we have a rep from Ecology here too to talk about this, but.
Yeah.
what do you want?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I'll provide an overview on this, and if we can ask our city clerk to promote the panelists that are on Zoom to the meeting. Wait a second here while we get those folks in.
Yeah, they're getting prompts right now. Was Andy Fulton also on?
Yes. And Nikki Burke.
Nikki's accepted. We're waiting on Andy to accept the promotion. There we go.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. So the item before you, Vice Chair, is in the packet. I called it an amended and restated franchise agreement, and really, probably the best way to characterize it is as a new franchise agreement. The franchise agreement that it was originally developed in 2011 between the city and Redwood Empire Disposal. Subsequent to Redwood Empire's disposal, it it was changed with a kind of an updated name to the Ratto Group of companies, who in turn sold the solid waste operations to Recology. And since that time, there's been some significant changes. Primarily, one of the biggest changes, the result of state legislation known as SB 1383, which put in place a number of new regulations regarding compost and green waste. And the state had mandated that we in turn update our ordinance. We did update a SB 1383 ordinance. And in doing so, we did work with Recology to clarify a number of the changes in their operational program, particularly through the rate adjustment process. But what we didn't do is do a comprehensive update of the franchise agreement to reflect, that we really transitioned from the original hauler, which we often called Red or Ratto, to Recology. So really what's in your packet is a new franchise agreement, though kind of you can characterize it as a restated franchise agreement in part. I really characterize this franchise agreement as cleanup to reflect consistency with SB 1383. We employed our long-term independent consultant, R3 Consulting Group, and Alex is here, Soulard, and his counterpart Garth, to coordinate with us on updating the franchise agreement. The franchise agreement was concurrently reviewed by our city attorney, and we to make every effort to ensure that it's consistent with current solid waste regulations. In doing so, we conferred with Recology. So here today from Recology is Logan Harvey. He's in person, along with Nikki Burke and Andy Fulton. Kind of to I guess best characterize some of the other changes. There's a lot of kind of clarification of definitions in the agreement itself, kind of addressing the change in waste categories to reflect again SB 1383, to really clarify that the services includes solid waste, recyclables, and compostables, and how that's handled. Council also did adopt and approve an extraordinary rate adjustment, which changed some of the language that was in the original franchise agreement, particularly around franchise fees. Council supported and agreed to kind of offset the impact of the rate increases, to reduce the franchise fee amount and tie it to a cost index or the CPI. And then there was also some language changes around special rate reviews. So it's kind of a big picture perspective on what we're bringing forward. The intent is to bring this forward for adoption to council at the next meeting on October 23rd. In addition to that would be an ordinance amending the municipal code to clarify the term for franchise agreements. Our city attorney would work on that. It's a fairly basic change to reflect a 15-year term versus what's provided for currently. It's a 10-year term, and bring a clean kind of updated franchise agreement that would serve as our contract between the city and Recology going forward. So with that, I just want to ask Alex Soulard. Alex, is there anything you think would be important to highlight? I know there's a lot of details
Yeah, there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of details in there, and I just wanted to say that it's like this is really kind of also incorporating those two last amendments that were made. So when we first came to your council for the SB 1383 costs, so that was the first amendment, was including some of that language, and then we did have to do a second amendment, which is also included in updated language, and that was to effectuate the special rate review and the step up of those rates over the course of 3 years. And so we do have one more year of that increase to go. But yeah, that's all in there and all cleaned up and current to date. So
All right. Thank you for that, Alex. So in the packet is a red line version. There's a lot of red lines because it was it was a comprehensive cleanup and update. So I'll kind of pause there. Vice Chair, again, we have Logan, Nikki, and Andy here from Recology. If you have any questions or if you want to ask their input and feedback, they've also vetted it. I think there's one little minor change. I didn't accept one red line that needs to be cleaned up. But otherwise, with your support, Vice Chair, we would bring this to council at our next meeting.
Thank you, Dave. Does anyone have any questions of Recology?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Um,
Could you just state your name,
oh yeah,
nice and loud?
Teresa Mahoney. And my concern is the rate increases. And am I to understand that this recent rate increase from if you have the $32, the 32 gallon garbage bin, the rate is now $133.85 a quarter, and that's up like $12 a month. And I'm assuming that that's good until you renegotiate rate increases in 2025. Is that right? Because these increases are they're very hard on us senior citizens, and I only went back to 2022, but it was $102 every quarter in 2022, and in 2023 it was $122.25, and now in 2024 it's $133.85. No changes in service, no change in bin size, and it's a hardship. And I guess I'm concerned because it seems that the agreement is made and then just presented to the council and they just approve it. And I think there should be more discussion or more. I've been writing about this in Nextdoor, and I'm getting a lot of responses because people are not, they're going, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. So I don't understand why such big increases over short periods of time with no additional or enhanced services for us. And in fact, we're even doing more of our own, compost and recycle and garbage. We're doing our own sorting. So I just don't want the city to go ahead and just almost blindly go along with Recology's rate increases. I think that it should be more discussed, and people should be made more aware of it. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Mahoney.
Yeah.
David, could we have somebody kind of break down that tipping fee and the increase and what's prompting that?
Sure. Yeah. Let me just want a couple of things to share. And your last name was Maloney?
Mahoney.
Mahoney.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you, Ms. Mahoney. Very insightful questions, and I think very important questions that you asked. And unfortunately, solid waste is one of those topics. It's hard to break.
Yeah.
a couple of things, just before we get going kind of on all the details, I do want to indicate that there is a low income customer rate provided for in the franchise agreement. I don't know if you meet the criteria or not for that, but if you qualify.
It's not that I make a lot of money, but I make too much for that.
Okay, yeah, because if you qualify for the PG&E's CARE program, you automatically qualify
Yeah.
as a low income customer, and you receive a 20% reduction in your rates. But to kind of answer your question, we do put quite a bit of effort into reviewing the rate schedules before they get adopted by council. And really the action that the council has taken is to ratify the rates, because the rates, they're set through a set of complex calculations, which, as the vice mayor was referencing, one of we utilize what's called the refuse rate index that looks at a set of cost factors, and those are reviewed independently that comprise the annual rate adjustments. Included in that is a charge. So Recology, when they pick up your solid waste or your green waste and they take it to a landfill or to a green waste processing center, they have to pay what's referred to as a tipping fee based on tonnage for that material. They pay that. It's primarily goes to the county of Sonoma through their contractor, who is Republic. And every year that the county adjusts that fee in coordination with Republic. So in essence, they are charging more for the disposal or the treatment of that waste or green waste once it's delivered to those facilities. And the way our franchise agreement is written is because that represents a significant increased cost of them delivering that transporting that waste to the landfill. They get to through the calculation pass those cost increases on to the customer through the rates, because otherwise they would be quickly losing money. The other factors that go into the refuse rate index includes fuel costs, for example. We know fuel has gone up considerably, and it fluctuates, and so it more often it goes up, but sometimes it does go down, and it softens the rate increase a little bit. But those factors are all put together into what's referred to as the refuse rate index to generate what the change in the collection fee is going to be that you pay as a customer. So we employ R3 to do an independent analysis of the numbers to confirm the accuracy of that data, and likewise I look at it, our city attorney looks at it, and so we do our due diligence to ensure that the data provided is accurate and factual, and is relative to what other cities are being what data is being submitted for other cities. So in that regard, we really do our due diligence to assess those fees. Unfortunately, some of the services that are required now by state legislation, particularly SB 1383, it required Recology to dedicate and put additional services towards complying with those regulations. But I can say I'm not certain that as a customer you necessarily see those enhanced level of services. Those again are because they're mandated by the state, and often they include paperwork, auditing type documentation, additional inspections. There's a whole host of work that goes into complying with those regulations that was factored into the rates. And again, we independently reviewed that. I don't know, Alex, if you have kind of an overview of how you might characterize the increase in costs related to SB 1383, that might be valuable to share.
Yeah, I'll just, and thank you, David. I think you did a great job describing that. But I just say that in addition, in August of 2022, when we did bring this to the council after doing a performance review of Recology and doing a billing audit and all that sort of stuff, a big part of those costs, those increased costs, were the SB 1383 related services. And so that was at that point in August of 2022 was when the city agreed to that special rate request increase and spreading those costs out over a number of years. And so just to speak to the rate increases that you've seen in recent years, those have been a little bit higher because of those step increases. There is additionally a 1.88% step increase that is remaining from that past council action that will be effective September 1st, 2025. And following that, it should just go back to the regular RRI, the refuse rate increase index adjustments. So,
I guess I want to ask, in gathering this data, which I'm assuming that Recology is providing to you. So their bottom line, are they in the red or are they in the black?
Well, I think based on the, as Alex reported, we did a pretty extensive audit when Recology came forward with their extraordinary rate review request. As any business, you usually don't find audits enjoyable, but it was a pretty extensive deep dive into their financials to verify and validate the costs of service to Cloverdale residents. They're a much larger organization that serves a number of jurisdictions all up and down California. I can't speak to their overall financial status as a business, but I believe that they're operating in the green. And I'd kind of defer to the person sitting next to you, to your left, maybe to opine on how Recology is doing financially, if you're so inclined.
Okay, I'm just curious about their profit margin.
Everybody's got to make money in a business.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disclose a specific margin, but when we took over the company, the Rata Group, the majority of our contracts, we were losing money. And that includes the city of Cloverdale. That's one of the reasons we've gone through these rate increases, is not only to comply with the state law. We purchased a lot of equipment. We've purchased well over 100 trucks at the cost of around 500 grand per trucks, including a number of them for the city of Cloverdale in 2020 that we received in 2021 and 2022. As everybody knows, consumables and cost of goods have gone up quite a bit, but we've seen increases to tire prices by 50 to 100%. And so we're seeing a lot of cost increases across the board. And this is where a lot of that comes from. At the end of the step rate increases, which we negotiated with the city in order to not come into a large rate increase all of a sudden, will be profitable in the city of Cloverdale. But as was mentioned here, that's the goal of a private business. To do so, we also had a union negotiation occur a couple of years ago, and so that increased labor costs for us as well. So we've got costs that continue to rise. We believe this is a good contract in the city of Cloverdale that was well negotiated and independently reviewed by our three. We think the city's done a good job in due diligence, and we've certainly opened our books to the city staff on those pieces. We recognize that there's a sharp hardship, and that's where we have the care discount. And we always encourage people to continue to divert more material out of landfill into those compost and recycling bins, which we offer for no cost, or included in the cost of garbage, which allows people to resize their bins down and save money. And so, we're honored to serve the city of Cloverdale. We look forward to continuing to serve the city of Cloverdale, and this agreement gives 15 years of assurance that rate increases are really going to come from that RRI, CPI kind of inflationary process, which is typically a lower percentage rate increase year over year.
Thank you. Any other questions? Paul?
I have one common sense question. In my neighborhood, why do you send the street sweeper down the same day that the garbage cans are out on the street?
What's the name of your street? I can sort of look into that.
Champlain,
Champagne? Okay.
Champlain.
Champlain, sorry.
It's that whole area. There's garbage cans out there and you send the street sweeper. They're blocking the curbs and
That's a good
gutters.
point. Yeah. Right.
And I've often seen, well, I've turned that into the city before. A lot of times in water, water squirters turn down and there's dust going all over the place.
Yeah, we had a driver that for some reason was very interested in conserving water.
So we didn't have to stop and refill.
Well, no, just he wanted to, some drivers get, we told them to please use the water as we asked you to.
Otherwise, the street treatment doesn't
It doesn't
really,
really do
if you
anything.
got dust flying all over.
Agreed, yeah, for sure. Well, okay, not specific.
Anyway, I just, you know.
No, fair enough.
I just want to let you know that the understanding that most people in my community and other people I talk to, their understanding of these increases is that they only get charged for the one can, the gray can. And depending on that size. So that's what if you call up Ecology, they'll say, no, we don't charge you for the green and blue can. So it's the gray can, and then these price increases that are coming every year from one can is how it's being perceived by your customers. And I know costs are going up everywhere, and I know business has to be profitable. But I just would like the city to take a second look. I know you've done due diligence. I trust that you've done that. But get a little input from the community, and does it have to be an increase every year? You know, that type of thing. Just we're on fixed incomes here, and it's tough between that and the water. It's tough.
We totally understand and, you know, be assured staff really looks at things. Our city attorney constantly is looking at the contracts and, you know, we feel that we've done a good job with ecology, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, then why don't we move to the next one?
Okay, the next one is E5, budget cuts and restricted travel and training. We put together, David, we went through the budgets and looked at all the travel and training that's been allocated, what's been spent, what the total amount is. I know the mayor was interested in this, so if you wanna just quickly go over this and maybe, I know that he's probably gonna have more thoughts on it, but we did come up with some numbers that could be savings to the general fund and other funds.
Well, why don't we wait and share that with the mayor?
Okay.
Because you also able to repeat it,
Okay.
and I'm sure he'll have some questions based on your report.
Yeah, and I usually put this together, so.
I just had one question about that. I don't know if you were able to answer. I noticed on the top part, it talks about year-to-date expenses. And then I don't know. The first column says year-to-date expenses. Do you see that data? I don't know, as you run down, when you go through the financing, the projected, I don't know, and they're all blank. I don't know if that means we just didn't look at the year-to-date expenses or.
There isn't none.
Or that was the other
Yeah.
possibility, that there were no expenses whatsoever, so, okay.
Nobody's turned in their accounts.
We just, there's a lot of travel and training, like just for example, the community development department, that's the one that's kind of mine.
Right.
We put 4,400. One of us usually goes to the planning conference, but we didn't go this year, so it's only $124.
Yeah, and we're only a couple months into the year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think Vice Chair and members of the community, you know, this was kind of a first iteration of identifying some areas for budget reductions. We know we heard from the community that there was, you know, hey, take a look at the budget and see where some savings could be generated. And the mayor asked about, you know, reducing travel and training, and there's probably a lot to just discuss in that realm itself, because some of our training is required by or legal requirements to maintain licenses, or for example, the police department maybe maintain post certification. So some of those come with some of the travel, or some of the training requirements come with, are tied to requirements. So it's not as always as easy as just saying, yeah, we can cut travel expenses without having a deleterious impact on maintaining our certifications alone. But there are some things we did identify, like TOT audits. We were in the process of finishing up one this year where there's an expense already. But do we continue? Do we continue with the cannabis compliance? Because those are all items we budget for. Now, some of that gets reimbursed through the charges that we pay or that we ask the business to cover. But those are expenditures in our budget. So I've asked staff to look at opportunities for additional savings now that we're a quarter into the calendar year, because we developed this about 6 months prior to adoption, and so things slowly start to change, different perspective, maybe some projects that are we may not get to, and so it might generate a little bit of savings there. So this is a work in progress. I think we always want to try to identify where our reductions can occur, and the mid-year is a really good spot to do that, to kind of do major budget reductions or changes, including looking at the revenue side of the picture as well.
Thank you, David. We'll keep it on. Yeah, throwing Americans back. It's fun. Okay, next item is abandoned and unclaimed checks. Dave, do you know about this one, or?
Yeah, so we have an existing administrative policy to establish a process for accounting of checks that go unclaimed, because they sit out there for quite a while as liabilities on our books if someone doesn't cash a check that's been issued by the city. We make every effort to follow up with anybody who may receive the check from the city. Usually the vendors are pretty good because they're getting paid for a service. Probably more often than not, it's a refund for a utility account where the resident didn't leave a forwarding address, and it gets mailed to their address on record, and then it doesn't get forwarded and it gets returned to us. So there's a process by which we would put a public notice in the paper, identifying that we have these check dates issued and to who the payee was, and the dollar amounts. And if upon the notice and within the time frame provided, if there is no response, we can close out those checks. And I don't have the total dollar amount, but they're listed in the.
It was a list of all the people.
But Bone,
You know him?
you know Mike?
Yeah.
That was his father. He's been dead for 10 or 15 years.
Oh,
Can't you get a hold of Mike?
it's not Mike's money, but Mike will be in for it, I'm sure. How much was it for?
I think that was 280.
What was the total of the checks?
Mike, can you put that back up, or?
We don't have a total on there.
Most of them are like 15, 16
Oh,
bucks.
Yeah, I think the most expensive one looks like it was 852, and that's to a construction company. The next was 285. The rest are right around 100, down to like $15, ranging in that area.
Most of them are pretty small.
We have sent two notices to these vendors, letting them know. We've mailed 2 letters to them with the proper forms to fill out. So this is kind of the last step in the process. After we've tried to contact them twice by mail, then we put it in the paper for 2 consecutive weeks, letting them know. And then I believe they have till the end of the year to claim these checks. So if you do know anyone, you can reach out to them. This will be, I believe it was put in the Press Democrat, and it's in this packet as well.
That's correct.
That Mike Bowman, didn't he used to be our police chief? Paul?
Buck Bowman was our former police chief.
Yeah, yeah,
His son is Mike.
right,
He should have the claim to his estate, police state or
yeah,
not.
yeah.
How does that work?
How does it work?
I had to show some kind of documentation and.
Yeah,
That he was left his estate. or
Yeah, something, I
Yeah.
mean, it's $280, I don't know.
well, no, that's pretty good money, Mike,
Okay.
thank you,
You pay a water bill with that.
but hurry up.
Yeah, barely.
Okay, I guess we good on that one?
Yep.
So E7 is ransomware plan update. And
This was the item for Susie. We're currently working on this with our IT consultant. We through our school, CIRA, the California Intergovernmental Risk Authority, they do an independent analysis of our IT systems and to identify where deficiencies may exist. So they basically try to break in, so to speak. And in response, there were some deficiencies noted, which we've addressed as quickly as possible with changes to our server configuration and a couple of other security settings. So this is an ongoing process that we engage in with our IT vendor to make sure all of our systems are secure as secure as they can be from hacking.
we'll probably leave that one on there until Susie's back. She'll have an update more of them.
Well, part of that item too came from a member of the public who sent an email and they just wanted to ensure that the city was doing something regarding, malware and different security, and not getting it.
And now we're audited by a risk pool because it's identified as a significant liability for cities is their IT system. So it's good that they're now providing the service to do the checks, and we're working with our IT vendor to rectify any of those deficiencies.
Okay, so we're gonna go on to standing items. I don't know if there's anything anyone wants to hear in particular. Aaron, maybe there's
Yeah, there's two questions I have, and I don't mean to be out of order, so if I am out of order, you can just correct me.
Can you state your name for the record? I can't see.
Yeah, my name is Erin Gore. And for the record, I'm elected on the district healthcare board representing Cloverdale. And I'm here as a member of the district board, and I'm here as an individual with a business in town. So my first order, I meant to try to make it for public comment, but I went to the library, so I think I missed it. Can I say?
Yeah, come on, go ahead.
Is that okay? Okay. So public comment, so, we did, as part of the district, the healthcare district, we funded the listening sessions for La Familia Sana on the margins. Remember, we had the big report out at city council. We had another meeting recently with Supervisor Gore. David Kelly was there representing the city as well as Hector, who's also on the district board. La Familia Sana is working on a big project in town. So on behalf of the district, I just wanna, I think it's important that this committee, there's gonna be an opportunity to think about how the city can use that data from on the margins, work with the nonprofit, and work with Supervisor Gore's office to move some of the initiatives forward for the community and the district, focusing on wellness in Cloverdale. And really, I learned through the city, other cities, through Healdsburg and Windsor, that they're actually allowing the local nonprofits to function with a lot greater ease because the city's taking the money from the counties and administering it. So I think there's an opportunity for Cloverdale to work like that with the county for funds, and also work with the local nonprofits and the district to try to drive some of the progress here, whether that's rec sports, or that's parks, or that's wellness centers, or in lots of different capacities. Also, we obviously have Alexander Valley, the new center coming there. So I just want to really encourage the city to convene more stakeholders around that and have more, be involved in those meetings and discussions and, you know, really, I think there's a real opportunity to kind of help level up everybody in Cloverdale where the city can be a real leader and win for the nonprofits and win for the community. So, on behalf of the district, however we can support that, I want to make sure you've known that we're here to support it and we're looking at how we can grant more funds and what we can do and what that looks like. Okay,
Thank you. Okay.
my question about cannabis, do you want me to ask that now?
Well, it's under the standing item, so yeah.
Okay, great. So my cannabis question is, I know there's some like gossip or rumors that the tax rates are gonna change. And that the city is unhappy with the collections on the tax rates. I'll just say, you know, my business is really struggling here in town with the industry the way it is, getting paid. We wrote off over $500,000 of receivables last year with the collapse of Herbal, the collapse of Grassdoor, the collapse of MedMen. So, with the statewide industry and the big decline, it's really impacting my business locally. So I'm just curious what the process would be for a tax change, tax rate change. If we're gonna have an ad hoc meeting to discuss it, like, what do you see, how do you see that playing out? Cause that could be detrimental to my business.
Yeah. Well, you know, I haven't heard of anything on the city's end about convening a study session to see about an increase in it. David, have you? Is he still with us?
Not specifically. I mean, there's been some you know, comments made that, you know, this is something we want to look at more closely.
Well, we're looking at all our revenue streams, so. Yeah. But, you know, I hadn't heard, this one in particular.
Specific plans.
But in terms of process, any changes to the tax rates for cannabis businesses would more than likely come before the subcommittee. So it would be, you know, agendized with options for discussion amongst the subcommittee members, and ultimately get a recommendation go to council when it's ready with a formal recommendation. So neither of those processes have occurred. We do obviously track on a monthly basis the excise tax that are paid pursuant to Measure P. And I think the direction we received thus far was really to ensure that all the cannabis businesses were in compliance with not only the local cannabis regulations, but also up to date on their Measure P payments.
Cool.
And if I could chime in on that, I don't know, Aaron. I know that the state tax is going up 4%, or scheduled to go up 4% for us retailers at the beginning of the year. So maybe that's what you were referencing as far as an increase. I've sat in a couple of these, I haven't heard any increase.
What I heard was just like chatter on the street, so that's why I decided to come and listen and be here and hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah,
And figure out what's just gossip and chatter versus what's the reality.
We'll let you know.
and on that same note, I just want to point out, I did notice the revenues and the demarcations on there. And I think it's important that the council and the whole city know that, you know, as Aaron mentioned, the industry is having a tough time. Tax revenues for the state are down 30% from where they were 3 years ago. So if you're seeing that in the city taxes,
Yeah.
that's just going along with everyone else in that regard. And I know we had 6 kind of businesses involved in the city, at least recently. Now I believe that's down to 5, and obviously that's going to impact, well, to the extent that the one that's out paid any taxes, that's going to impact on the revenue receipts that are received by the city as well.
Yeah, we just had a cut shift. So we just laid off like 9 people, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the hotel.
Oh.
Who's the one that's out?
Okay, thank you. Those were my questions on that.
David, I don't know if you have any updates on the standing items. I had just a real quick one on the code enforcement, but if there's anything else that you had.
No updates.
Okay. Just code enforcement real quick. David and I have been talking, we're gonna, since we've lost our consultant,
Right.
we're gonna do a different approach where it uses our existing software portal for building permits. And so people would, report their complaints there, and the software has the ability to automatically send it out to the building and fire and all that. So we're gonna try to take a team, kind of a team approach. And I think, it's gonna be way more efficient. I've already kind of put together the portal, so someone could go online, so it's not a paper form.
Okay.
And, you know, it's just a quick update, it's kind of using what we have and trying to be more efficient with it, sure. So,
And it could be anonymous.
yeah, it can be anonymous.
Okay.
It'll just be easier because once it gets into the portal, we can alert anyone who it relates to, so again, fire, building, planning, police, whoever.
Okay.
Um.
Who
So,
does the inspections at,
For what?
like, building and code enforcement, subject, is that code
Yeah,
you're
it-
talking about?
yeah, well, it depends, if it's like, a planning related thing, like, you know, junk in the yard, stuff like that, it's our planning department. If it's a, you know, building without a permit, then it would be the building department. If it's, you know, if it's tall weeds, it could be the fire department and the planning department, so it's kind of, depends on the nature of the complaint and who's gonna respond. So that's kind of the approach we're
So
taking.
you don't really have anybody out checking anything to the computer.
No, we continue to do what, we react to complaints. We're not out actively seeking things out. So,
Under the traffic thing.
Unless we happen to stumble upon
What's
them.
that?
Unless we happen to stumble upon them,
yeah,
please.
Under traffic, the same traffic thing, I remember, I was on planning commission years ago, and I was, kept everything studying ordinances and all that. It's like hedges and fences are up to be over 3 feet tall on a turn. That's all over town,
the vision triangle on the corner, so you can,
Yes. Unless somebody turns that in. Nobody's gonna go around.
Well, you know, Paul,
Like even if a policeman's cruising, he's not gonna say anything, right? Unless somebody complained about it.
yeah, but he should say something, and I was just
That's
gonna
what I'm
say.
saying.
Our public works department, when those guys are out there riding around on streets or doing something, they should have a slip right there. They see something, they fill it out and turn it in. I mean,
It's basically a safety thing, is what it is.
I do all the time.
Huh?
I do all the time.
Yeah, I'm just, I just remember all of these.
it's the,
yeah,
I hate to be a
the
pain.
corner there,
I walk all the time.
I love to be a pain.
yeah. You could be our reporter. Give you the rest and,
Like, those, some of those places where they put the, pavers,
yes,
some of them are sticking up.
yeah.
I tripped and almost fell one day and twisted my knee, I feel like going down there myself and.
let Derek know,
Which
let
page?
Derek know.
Derek said, said the same main thing is we got so much other stuff going on. I said, I'll go down with my pickup and dig it up as long as I don't get in trouble and reset it if you want. I'm retired.
What's next on that?
My main deal is that,
That's
so,
it.
like you said,
Well,
I
there's
found
the
it in
chief.
the town for 95 years.
Chief, you got
Concerned basically about the student, you know what I mean, so. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, we'll see you around.
They were last on stage.
What's that?
I like it. I just want to get a quick recruitment update. Yeah, one officer, obviously, and, actually, we have one applicant for the lateral academy position. Our CSO is currently in background to replace Teresa. We have a dispatcher starting this week, the backfill for, our records tech, moving into that spot from dispatch to records tech position. And he starts on the 9th. He's a returning employee.
Oh, is that,
It's Mike Newhall.
oh, he's back from,
He's back from Montana.
yeah,
Yeah.
too cold.
Uh,
Huh?
It didn't work out.
Cold, well, there he is. And of course, he brought his wife with him, right?
He's not married.
Oh, wasn't he
He
married?
has a girlfriend.
Oh,
has a
oh,
long-term girlfriend.
okay. Well, tell Mike I said hello.
No, do.
I used to work with him at Exchange Bank. He was in our, security department.
Oh. We still have, 2 out on, leave. One went out on family leave right now. No, that's it. So, that's all I got.
Well, thank you, chief.
So next is future agenda items. We have cannabis ad hoc meeting and agenda and media management software agenda. Yeah, so that's Mike's software. And then if there's any other future agenda items, we could.
Well, who wanted the cannabis item on there? Was that the mayor?
I don't know if you recall, we had sort of a cannabis ad hoc meeting where all the owners were in this room.
Oh, that was a while back.
Yeah, so I think this is kind of, they wanted another one,
Oh, okay.
so that's.
Yeah, this has been a standing item for a little while. We've kept it on there because we're not sure necessarily how the subcommittee wants to proceed. But they have requested multiple times that there's a relatively standing ad hoc meeting, but we also discussed that maybe it just become a standing item here. And they can come to this meeting, but there's options. We just, at some point, we'll put it on the future agenda items to discuss and move forward with.
Well, I'm gonna leave that up to,
Okay.
to Kevin and, David and, when and if they wanna do that with the mayor's blessing.
Yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
excited. Is
we,
adjournment.
yeah, we know they're gonna wanna look for
Yeah.
a decrease in the taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it, meeting adjourned. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, David. Thank you, Shannon.
Yep.
Thanks,